Good morning. This has been a while, but I've been a bit busy the last few days, haven't had time to record these, but here we are. We're running the same lineup as last time, Gwencat, Jax, Vayne, and Sivarakshan, although due to the balance update, some cards have changed. We'll be fighting Walkabout again. This time we chose to fight Walkabout as opposed to... we chose both times, but this time we first picked him to Walkabout as opposed to second picking. All I want to mention is that the changes in the decks are that Gwencat has, and this is just off memory, so it might be wrong, one less Hookmaster and a Bourgeois Sentinel instead, so as a fourth Wanderer. And since then I've taken out the second Hookmaster to put in either a Rune Squire or another Bourgeois Sentinel, I think. Jax Vayne, I didn't change... No, right, because Rarely got nerfed. I took out 2 of the Aegises for a Relentless Pursuit and a Cataclysm, so now I've got 1 of each, like, Rally, quote-unquote. Although I think you might want to take out, like, 1 or 2 Hookmasters, because Hookmaster just does not feel great anymore. And Sivarakshan, I took out 1 Golden Aegis, so we're at 1 Golden Aegis now instead of 2. And I put in... Oh, I took out also a Broadwing. So we're on 2 Broadwing, and I put in 2 Laurent Duelists. I don't know if 2 Laurent Duelists is correct, but there's now Laurent Duelist in the deck. We've got a rematch against Buttchug, and I will say this match is probably the most interesting out of the ones that I've made so far, of all these voter reviews. Just because of what happens. And, yeah, so they're running a super aggro lineup, as Buttchug always does. Nightfall, Annie Jin, and Draven Jinx. They ban Red Gun because it's the only deck that's got healing in it. And then we're doing Anijin into Sivarakshan. Now, I don't remember how all of these games go. All I remember is making misplay. But we'll live. Maybe. This hand is awful against aggro, so we pitch it all. And we get what is pretty much a really, really good hand. Like an absurdly good hand. And Duelist is pretty good against these decks that are in interaction. And this is just an absolutely bonkers hand, to be honest. Going from 3 interaction and a 5-mana 5/5 into all units, mostly cheap, is pretty damn good. Now, I remember Buttchug's Anijin pretty much never runs a Decimate. I'm pretty sure they run 3 Fervor and maybe 1 Sigil of Malice. But here we play the Broadwing to trade into the 1/3 favorably. I'm also noticing this opening hand reminds me a lot of an opening hand we get in the team set, and I think that's really funny. This decision, which I've talked about many, many times in previous videos, I still don't know whether it's more correct to attack here or not. But I think I don't, but I think in general the answer ends up actually being I should. But I think here it's really good too, because if they play the 1/3, they can't afford a stun. And if they play the 1/3, we can really punish them with the 3/3, right? If we didn't have a 3/3 here, this would probably be wrong just in case they've got the 1/3 and we can't kill the 1/3. And what's good about them playing the 1/3 is while it does 2/2 to the dome, they can't play a stun and Boom Kuruki. That's what I mean by the 1/3. So I think that makes this attack really, really powerful. If we didn't have it, I do think there's arguments to just keeping the Broadwing back so we can kill the Boom Kuruki, like, whenever we want. Oh look, it's Boom Kuruki! We're just gonna Vagabond them. No, it is a little awkward because you did want to Duelist into Siva so we can do spot removal with Siva. But it's not too bad. I just remembered how game 2 goes, and I'm now upset once more. They don't attack with the Boom Crew. I think that makes sense if they've got stuns and stuff. Like, this is always dealing 2 damage unless I challenge or single it, and so may as well try and get extra damage in. They play Jin. Would have been a great time to have Duelist plus Siva. And all I'm thinking now is it worth trying to kill Jin? So how we can kill Jin is we can use Bloodletters on the Vagabond and then play single on Jin, and we can kill Jin before he does anything. And this is a tough decision, because we have to play around how many stuns we're going to think they have next turn. We've got 8 mana to use over this turn and next turn, which is most of our hand. including Duelist, Siva, and Waking, as well as Duelist, Waking, Waking single, and Duelist, Waking single Bloodletters. I end up deciding that there's a good chance that if they open, I might end up singling or trying to block Jin. So I just wanted to do this. Also, let's push some damage. And next turn, I realize that there's a very good chance I'm going to be doing single plus the 5-3 ephemeral. I decided to do single here just because I'm pretty sure their Jin is at no, I don't decide to do single. I'm pretty sure their Jin's at 2 of 3 at the moment. If I commit this, then it was wrong. I should have done on the stack. My thing is that I really wanted to play around Fervor. If they Fervor here, and if they get to stun one of my units, that's like such a blowout. Yeah, because Jin's 1 away from doing a Lotus Trap. So I really didn't want them to stun one of my units with the Lotus Trap. So I think I end up playing Waking Sands and forcing them to play something with a skill. And if they do that, they tap onto Fervor. Like if they play a unit with a skill here, they just tap onto Fervor. If they play Saboteur, that's the only way it doesn't. They play a unit with a skill, so now the stun does go off, but at least we can kill Jin favorably. We kill Jin now so that we keep our 2-1 alive, so the Jin attack trigger doesn't go up. And from memory, I do it with the 4-3 so that the 5-2 is still a blocker. While this isn't the greatest turn for us, because most Jin turns end up being powerful. Sorry, do I not single? Surely, passing there was a misplay. I'm always supposed to single, right? There's no punishment for singling. And if they opened, I would have lost a 2-1 for no reason. Yeah, pretty sure this single's always correct. Only argument against it is that if I play the 5-2, block a bunch, and then just play Siva, they can't ever not lose their Jin by when I play Siva. But I also want Siva to trade into other things, not necessarily just Jin. And I think the single is fine. We trade around like this, only go down to 11, and this deck doesn't run a lot of over the top. Their best and strongest card is Augmented Experimenter. In terms of like refill and like resetting everything. Bloodletters here to do some Dark and Throw beatdown is pretty okay, although there's also an argument to put it on the 2-1, and there's also an argument to play it on Zalani. I decided to not play it now, just to make top decks a little better if I get like a Cataclysm or something. There's no real reason to play it now. And we can just play Siva now. Now, they probably pass us here, right? And my memory is that I decided not to pass back because Crackshot Corsair or Tusk Speaker might be like my second best hit instead of Jin. And if I pass here, they're going to pass back. And I don't think I can justify them passing back at this low HP. I'd rather them play Jin but not have many units on field. Is my memory of this event. I do this, and what I really want them to do is to block my units. Because if they block my units, I can fuck them up with a Siva and a quick attack. Right? So if they block the 2-1 with the 2-2, I get a Shapestone. And looky here, they block the 2-1 with the 2-2. And I get the Shapestone on the 4-3, give quick attack to the 2-1. It's just me triple checking that this works. And they lose a unit. Now losing a unit isn't the worst thing for them. It does make further plays a bit awkward, it does make going wide a bit awkward with stuns, but remember one of our units can't really block anyway. But they get to play Jin here. And, I mean, I wasn't able to kill Jin, and I'd rather kill the Crackshot Corsair rather than pass. They end up playing Mana Source Student, but what that does mean is that their cards aren't Fervor or Sigil of Malice. And getting Akshan here means I can pop the landmark as well as develop a unit, so I just play Akshan here. And even if their last card is a skill, they get the Mana Source Student and the Jin trigger. They've only got one card left in hand, and we can block down, and without Decimate to worry about, we're in like pretty favourable positions. This ends up being Dancing Grenade, which is pretty strong. Jin doesn't get his skill, but he does get his level of trigger. Just want to check that it does 4, but I predict here. I get 3 Merciless Hunters, and so what I'm thinking in this position is Merciless Hunter lethal, right? Is this guaranteed lethal if I take Merciless Hunter? Because they can choose to attack or not attack. If they choose to not attack, I'm pretty happy, because I just do Merciless on the Jin, I pull the Mana Soul and the Jin, and then I'm in a pretty good position. Not necessarily guaranteed win, but a pretty good position. Just lets me threaten like damage points, right? Because I'm dealing 4 damage with 2 things, so that they're forced to at least block with the Tusk Speaker. However, what I realize is that I think strike spells and other units are probably better for me than Merciless Hunter, and Merciless Hunter isn't necessarily game-winning, and even if I don't get Merciless Hunter here, I can just play Bruiser and block, right? Like, Merciless Hunter doesn't do a lot here that Bruiser doesn't do, considering they're also just forced to block anyway. So I decide from memory not to go for Merciless Hunter. Despite Merciless Hunter being pretty good, it's just unnecessary, and I think I've got better draws, such as Concerted, such as Cataclysm, that sort of thing. Rata Negation. So from memory, I click skip, and you should see my cursor click skip. And I'm making a very big point here that I click skip on a triple Merciless. Yeah, Jin's got 1 more, so when he attacks, his attack trigger will do the stun, but when he does the attack, he won't level up before the level up trigger goes off. So he will level up before the level up trigger goes off, which means that he's not going to be dealing 4 to the dome and 4 to all my units. So I skip, and look, I get Merciless Hunter anyway. I play Bruiser here. From memory, just to block really favorably. Into everything. They can't really attack with Jin, because Jin doesn't get stats when he levels up, because he wants to be a 4/4. And I think this attack is a little bit bad for them, because I just block with my units, and they don't run Flock, they don't run any way for them to deal with Sivir. So I just block like this and then have an open attack lethal. Alright, like there's no way they can get out of this being open attack lethal. I don't think know if attacking here was correct. You could argue that the 1 damage is important, but I don't think attacking here was correct. Because there are ways they can try and find ways to block, I think. Right, like if I don't have a buff spell, they're only taking 7 damage. But I get Overwhelm, which is fine, but genuinely I don't think it matters. It was probably correct to put it on the 3-1, by the way. Akshan. Just to play around further, so that at least Akshan is still lethal. But my thinking is if they're going to be playing something like Fervor, I might have been developing the Merciless Hunter anyways, right? Like if I don't target Sivir and I target the Akshan, try and give it a strength buff and then open. That's another way of doing it, but it's fine. I had guaranteed lethal, I think, with the Merciless. I did forget about the Venting Grenade when it's just saying that thing. However, look, another Merciless. I found 3 Mercilesses in the predict, and then I drew 2 of them. Despite skipping. I think that's kind of funny. But game 1 goes to me. And now we get into some of the worst plays that you can see in the video game. So it's Jax Vayne into aggro, which should be even better than Sivir Akshan into aggro, because it's even lower to the Grand Demacia. And while there's less combat tricks like a Sharp Sight, like I don't run any combat tricks except catch in terms of stat based, you're gonna see some pretty questionable plays here. In terms of early game cards, I just want Jax and Hookmaster as well as the 2/2 if possible. Hookmaster isn't great, but yeah. I debate on Parts Made Whole as a burst speed blocker, but this draw is really good, right? It's all early curve, it's all really good. Tough is pretty good, although we're gonna lose it to the rear guard because I'd rather lose this unit and not take the rank. Especially since they don't have many things with 2 strength that I care about blocking, right? Like Legion Saboteur is literally it. And for memory here, we just play Jax to threaten some damage. There's an argument to play Zealous Ranger Knight because it trades into things better, but this is better into Boomcrew Rookie. And look, they played Boomcrew Rookie. I think here we decide to do Hookmaster. It really depends on what they end up playing, right? Crackshot Corsair, I end up playing Zealous Ranger Knight because it's a better guaranteed blocker. If Hookmaster becomes if Hookmaster, for example, gets only Scout or the can't block weapon, Hookmaster's going to be awful to play here. So at least the 2/3 is like a really good blocker. They play Stagehand to kill our 3/2, which is fine. We want to make sure that we're killing the 1/3 here so we don't take a Mystic Shot to the Nexus for no reason. I think they could have attacked with the 1/1, I'll be honest. But we do this, and then I think we play Ranger Knight Defector and try smoking them down just a little bit. from memory. And we're in a pretty good position where they've only got 3 cards left. We're not too low, especially when they're not running Decimate. If only this good position was something that I kept thinking about. Sunhawk is pretty good for them. I won't lie. It allows us to only attack with Jax because I don't want to take damage on our Ranger Knight defector for no reason. Especially when it's still a really good blocker. And then they start developing. But getting the Sunhawk out is good because it means they're not Sunhawking on their aggressive turn unless they've got a second Sunhawk. Mana Source Student. So we've got interesting plays here. Cataclysm looks really good because we get to rally. And rallying is pretty decent. Especially since there's no way for them to interact with it except Fervor. And if they're Fervoring here, I'm like really happy with that just because all our trades line up really, really well. There is an argument to just develop the board and be more wide with our aggression. And I think there are ways in which that's a much better play. But if they stun here, we can still just play the Hookmaster and block relatively okay. While if we develop the 2 units, blocking can get a little awkward, especially if you want to kill the Mana Source and be threatening damage. And because we can't do the scout thing next turn, and we might not want to do it in 2 turns' time, especially when we've got real rally in hand, I think this Cataclysm's alright. But there's definitely arguments to just playing the 2 units and being a bit more fine with it. What is good about this is that they can't proc Mana Soul without Fervor. That's one really good part about this play, is that they can't proc Mana Soul without Fervor here at all. We do this, they attack, pretty sure we just block. And I think this is around the time where I make my biggest misplay. And the misplay might not be obvious based on how I've been describing their hand. So if we look at this position right now, how do we lose? And my thinking was triple Fervor and they draw another unit, right? So they draw a unit and then they have triple Fervor and they burn us out. And we don't have any way of beating triple Fervor. So in my mind, if I just block with the Ranger Knight defector, they've shown they've not had Jin because they haven't had any skill triggers, nor Annie, nor any of their other like mediumly powerful cards, right? Like some of their main combo tools. So my thinking was I can block the 3/2 here and not worry about trying to threaten massive lethals. Now, if I develop my stuff and attack, I can deal like a lot of damage, and I can probably put them on a turn in which they're dying when I rally in 2 turns time, right? So I attack this turn with the Hookmaster, I attack next turn, maybe with the Pultivan Castaway, and then I rally and probably win on that turn, right? Jax will have probably flipped by then. But I think, okay, there's no reason for me to lose to a triple Fervor hand, so I will just block and win against most hands. Right, pretty much every hand, as long as I don't have Fervor or Bingo. All of what I've said there is complete and utter bullshit. It's fucked. Because the one card that I forgot about was Augmented Experimenter. And if I just remembered that Augmented Experimenter was in their deck, I would never have done this play. But stupid, silly me. Here I'm just doing mana, seeing if I can play the rally and stuff. And what sort of mana points that I have. If they play Augmented, I just lose. They refill their board, they refill their hand, I lose a unit, I don't have any interaction to deal with their main stuff. I just die. If they have Augmented, this sucks. It's really, really bad. And if you can't tell by how much I'm reacting to this and being upset at myself, what do you think the last fucking card is? And when I saw this play right now, I got so sad. Because if I had just kept the Ranger Knight defector and just attacked and just been aggressive, sure, Augmented would still be really powerful. But I would feel so much better about my position in terms of damage here. I was like, oh, I can take Scout. There's no way Scout gets punished. And now Scout looks awful. And we've got no units anymore. Because I traded the 2/2 into the 3/2, and I'm just sitting here thinking, now how can I win? A few turns ago, I was so happy about my placement. We do Fish Fight here because 3/3s are impossible to trade into, and we want to put the combat reel on this guy anyway, and attack, and deal a bit of damage and try and find some poor method of lethal. We draw Vayne here from memory, which is probably a pretty good draw in terms of blocking, in terms of trying to threaten damage. But 6 is awkward because we're not threatening lethal with any of our attacks. Now it's 5, but again, we're still not threatening lethal with any of our attacks. But most damage we can do is 4 at the moment with everything, unless we put the combat reel in the Vayne. Which is possible, we can put the combat reel in the Vayne, but it's difficult to justify entirely. But it does end up being, I think, our best play. But then they have Jhin here, which feels awful. I end up doing this, I think. It's not great, but I can still do the combat reel, and I can force them to block both of these things when I inevitably attack with them, as opposed to them just taking the damage and just going to 1 HP. But there's definitely an argument to putting the Light of Acacia on the 4-2 and not doing this attack. Now this attack ends up being bad for a reason that I didn't understand until a few turns. And it's because Jhin can just stun Vayne now. And Jhin stunning Vayne and killing Vayne is a lot worse than most of my other options. Now if I attack here, I lose the game. They block with one of their units and I die, basically. So I can't justify attacking here. Right, I take so much damage, I lose the stun, I lose my other units, the Jhin stuff. Wherein if I didn't attack with the Vayne, I wouldn't have lost my units to the Jhin stuff. The attack there was really, really awkward and not particularly good. I'm gonna double check that I'm recording. I am good. I end up not attacking just so I can block the Jhin, but it doesn't matter. And Jhin ends up... No, he doesn't end up flipping. Technically, it's the same thing as last time. The flip happens after he does his level 1 skill, so he doesn't have the time to do the level 2 skill. But here is where I realized that Vayne gets stunned. I thought Vayne was dying here, but that was wrong. But Vayne getting stunned means I should have attacked anyway. Right, that's the main thing. And I'm sort of forced to block Jhin here so I don't die to Fervors. I think was part of my logic, but I think I was also thinking that I died to Fervor anyway. So if I do this, like, at least I destroy a unit and can justify maybe going wide, maybe forcing them to block a little bit awkwardly. Because Vayne only has 3 strength when you put the Light of Acacia on, they can just block with Jhin anyway. And I really should have attacked, I guess, but... In my head, all I was thinking about, what is it with these LOR subreddit Discord users like Griff and Walkabout that make me misplay against them? I end up doing this. I don't think it really matters. I don't really think I can win. And if, seriously, I know that they would have had augmented whether or not I blocked with the 2-3. But the amount of damage I would have pushed, and the amount of pressure I would have been able to apply, and the amount of space I would have had on the board would have been so much better. I have taken 3 more damage, but I can block that thing another time, and I can pressure so much. But I'm just upset at how I played. Now, I don't know if what I'm doing here is correct. I don't know if I'm playing to my outs. Maybe I should have given Scout to the dog. Maybe I should have given Combat Reel to the Vayne. In order to threaten 5 damage, force him to block. Combat Reel forces them to, you know, block with the 1-1 and not a positive trade. I can always Scout with the Tumble. I can always do a Relentless Pursuit and all of this nonsense, but they have the stun, so none of this really matters anyway. I could have changed the weapons last turn, so that I could have tumbled at open speed, which was definitely... I think that might have been correct, right? You put the Light of Acacia on the Vayne, and then you tumble the Attune weapon onto Vayne so that she's got 5 strength and 2 HP so that they're forced to block with the Jhin. I think that's the correct play. And so I am misplaying, like, as we're speaking. But in my head, all I was thinking about was the fucking augmented thing. Yeah, here's me doing that play where I actually now remember to, you know, force the Vayne block, which I should have been doing this whole time. But I think the last card, doesn't matter. They block with the 1/1 or they further or something. Yeah, they block with the 1, but they've got the open attack with the Jin, right? And that's just lethal. That's just game. I had to really force them to block with Jin here, and I don't even think that was happening even if I did all of that, right? If they've got a unit. They open attack with Jin, and that's game, and I'm really sad at how he played. Because I sincerely think that if I just didn't block, I would have been able to be playing around more. Because 3 fervors is a lot harder to have than 1 augmented, right? And even 3 fervors isn't guaranteed because they need to draw another unit as well, and I need to not have single concerted paddle when they're out of mana, and all this nonsense. I'm gonna have a drink of water. Sorry if you can hear it through the microphone. And then we have Jack's Vein versus Nightfall. I don't know what else to say. I should say, now, when we were doing scrims, I thought that this Nightfall list was one of the worst Nightfall lists I've seen. And I'm still going to say that this Nightfall list is definitely missing some power. There's no unspeakable horrors, and there's no heavens, and so there's no way to generate cards. Now, talking about randomly generated cards, not even like pseudo-random, like, you know, Invoke, Manifest, all these things where you can sort of choose. No randomly generated cards makes this a lot easier to play around, because you never have to worry about, like, the Cloven Way or the 7/7 Dragon or, you know, cards that aren't in their deck that are pretty scary. The only way to generate cards is Nocturne's Unspeakable Horror. And the other thing that I disliked about this deck is that there's no forms of interaction. They can interact with Nocturne's Play Effect and Diana, but they don't run Vial, they don't run Vengeance, they don't run Moonlight Affliction. From memory, their only spells were something like Glimpse, Fading Unto. They only had 3 spells or something like that. So I thought this list was pretty awful. The flip side of this is that they're running a lot more units that allow it to be more aggressive. So they're running the Fading, they're running Moonlit Glenkeeper, they're running Doombeast and Stygian and all of this, you know, relatively normal stuff. But the list still looked really awkward to me, and because of the lack of spells, it's a lot easier to play around what they can do. For example, when we were playing this, and I was playing Sivir Akshan during scrims, if you just put a duelist on like an Akshan or a Sivir, they can't kill it. They can't deal with it. But Jane Vax, of course, that's what this deck is called, is a little bit harder to do all that with. I keep the fish fight to because we don't have weapons, and while you can fish fight some stuff like Diana, I really would want a weapon before I do any of that, especially since this deck has a lot of weapon synergy stuff. And this hand's pretty good, right? We got the 1, 2, 3, we've got Jural, which helps with Fleet Feather Tracker. But they do, I think, a really cool play here. And while both in the last game and in this game, I'm going to be making misplays and I'm going to be upset at myself at how I play, I really want to commend Buttchug, because Buttchug did some real, or Walkabout, some really interesting and cool plays here, like the one that is about to do right here, that I think it's just cool to watch. And Buttchug's obviously somewhat of a fan of Nightfall, to be bringing it, and can see these plays and really enjoys them. And it's Fading Stygian. I'm sure if you played Nightfall a lot, you've seen this, but I hadn't seen this before. Like, I know about Fading and then Stygian, but Fading on, like, a Fleet for the Tracker is really good, right? And they still get to keep their Stygian on board, which is pretty difficult for me to deal with. We get the Watchdog, which allows us to play it on 4 if we play Vayne to Vayne, and they somehow kill Vayne. Now, remember here, they don't run Vial, they don't run Unspeakable, so from memory I actually end up taking Combat Reel. Just because, like, yeah, Panopane can trade into things better, especially with Vayne. So what? I don't attack here to play around Diana. I want to kill Diana if they've got Diana. Now, there's definitely an argument to attack, and looking back on it, I'm probably supposed to attack. If they play Diana, they're probably not playing Diana naked, but they might play Diana naked. However, we can see that they've got a 1-drop in hand that they're really happy to Nightfall out. So if they play Diana this turn, it's pretty similar to them playing Diana next turn, right? The only difference is that they can't go wider with a Diana this turn. with it as opposed to last turn. But attacking there may have been correct because we still get the attune, and the attune shouldn't be scuffed at like at all. And we get to trade off one of their units and all that. But in my head, I wanted Diana, and I wanted at least one challenger just in case I wanted to kill. I forget what the card's called. Nocturne. Because we draw a 1-drop here, my thinking was that I'm pretty okay putting the Dural on. And because they can't kill our guy right away, we can do Golden Aegis. And this Aegis is really great. Right, being able to protect our challenger from their challenger and then challenge their Lunaria Shadestalker puts us in a pretty good position. Now, they'll end up playing Power Cascade to kill it, but a pre-committed Power Cascade on an ephemeral unit that's not pushing damage was something that I thought was a pretty okay trade. It's still 3 mana into 3 mana, so it's not the best thing for me. But I was pretty okay with this when it happened. And, here from memory I just play Vayne, start getting the countdown triggers going. Sorry, the reduced cost triggers going, and if we let a unit die here, we can play Watchdog into Dural, which I think is pretty good. So from memory, I just attack with everything. Because all of these trades are good, and if they can also do the Shadestalker into the 2-2, but maybe they want to play around catch. But I still want the attune, and I want to do the Watchdog Dural play, even though they should definitely just do the block on the 2-2. From memory, they end up doing this and play... No, they just do this. So I don't entirely get this. I'm assuming what they had is they had Pale in hand, and if I catch, they would have just paled in response. But I think it might have been better to flip those two. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if it changes anything actually. But we just play the Watchdog. I think I end up deciding to do it on the combat reel, which is a lot better. That way we can actually play Dural to trade into stuff like a Nocturne. Their Nocturne's at 2 or 5. Got a second Dural here. And here is Nocturne. And, no, it's Stygian, sorry. And then it's Nocturne, I think. Now, from memory, I pass here, because I don't want Dural to have less than 4 strength. So I want Dural to be able to trade into the Nocturne here. No, I play Condemned. This is wrong. Dural has to be better, right? Every time? Right, so Condemn loses to Unterdusk. That's why I'm not... And Pale. That's why I'm not playing Condemn on Nocturne. Now, looking at this, I think it's pretty obvious that either Castaway, because Castaway will often be able to block a leveled up Nocturne when he attacks. So Castaway might have been better, but honestly, I think the correct play is just Dural. If they play Underdusk and kill the Dural, that's like a little sad. But their Nocturne will still take damage, unless they pre-commit the Unto. But if they're playing Nocturne Unto, I think I'm kind of losing anyway. But for some reason I picked Condemn. I don't know why I picked Condemn when I've got Dural in hand. Especially if I'm not attempting to kill Nocturne. Right? Like, if I attempted to kill Nocturne here and say you don't have Pale, you don't have Unterdusk, that could have been a lane, but instead I just played Condemn on the Stygian to block damage. Is that really what I'm thinking? Dural has to be correct here, and if it's not Dural, I think it's built in Castaway to set up the blocker. Especially since if I play Dural and like Nocturne's flipped, I can't attack Dural. So this is the first of many, many misplays. And this isn't great. Like, I'm just looking at this and I'm very confused why I'm thinking about this. What am I doing here? Since this game, I've decided that I'm not a big fan of Nocturne. Nocturne just does my head in, and I don't understand how to play around Nocturne, which is a me problem. I don't know why I put this issue, but all of a sudden, I just feel as if I can't play against Nocturne ever. I just don't understand how he works. I mean, I understand, I can read his cards, but I find him really difficult to play against. And if we play Dural here, we can't trade into Nocturne. I really, really wish we played Dural last time. We get Condemned, which will definitely save us. We play the wrong Dural, by the way. Just for fun, you know. We can let them know we've got 2 Durals in here. And we played the wrong Dural. They play Pale so that they can Nightfall a unit, discount everything by 2 because of the Nocturne, how Nocturne works. And so I decided, okay, well I can't kill Nocturne here, so I guess I just shouldn't bother. I think the correct play here is to challenge Nocturne and condemn Nocturne if they develop. I think that's the much better play. I can't care about this elusive. I just need to get Nocturne off the fucking field. And I decide not to, which is a misplay. I really think I'm supposed to kill Nocturne here. Not kill Nocturne here, but spend the 11 mana here for Dural plus Condemn on the next turn, just to kill Nocturne. So I think it's so important that Nocturne dies here, and everything else is sort of secondary. Even if they've got a bunch of Fearsomes, even if they've got whatever's in hand, right? We can play Castaway, I think, if we do Condemn. Yeah, we can. If we do Castaway into Condemn, we can play Castaway, but we probably just open Condemn, so maybe we can't. But we can also do Aegis to create a Fearsome blocker. But we just have to kill. We just have to kill Nocturne, and we just don't decide to. And I feel awful about it. I tried to kill the Elusive, which is probably the second best target. But I Condemn. What is wrong with me? I could have also just said you don't have Untask, you don't have Hail, and that's honestly maybe even a better play because I'm struggling into Nocturne. If I don't say you don't have it, I'm okay. But we do this, and I mean you can see the length of the video. It's not a great sight. So I will say, like, Butchug is playing well here. Like, doing the Pale into the Moonlit Glenkeep is a really good way to play around stuff like Catch. Like, any way to kill Nocturne is sort of null and void. And I'm thinking here, how can I make sure I've got enough combat fearsome blockers? I can play combat and stuff, but they play a unit, and all of a sudden, I can't kill Nocturne. How silly am I? And at this point I realize that I'm just dead. Right now I can block, so I realize that I should, just in case they don't have any units. Right, I block this and do something next turn. So I'm pretty sure I pass here. But then what do I do? I might be able to condemn on the Vein. Condemning the Vein might be a line. Another line, by the way, is to play a Weapon Master, get Scout, tumble the Scout, and get a free Condemn. That's another line, but yeah. Butchug's been really happy about how this game went. He's been talking about it on Twitter, and his team, ABG Zaun, went 3-0 this week, and they were 2 wins below the Castaways, who were the second in the bracket. So there are 5 groups in the team. There are 5 teams in a group. In our group, as you've seen, we've got Omega LC, which is my team, the Castaways, ABG Zone, Krug Crew, and Sansonara Poppy. And while Omega LC was always at the top, except for 1 week where Castaways was at the top, it's been Omega LC, Castaways, ABG Zone, and then I think Krug Crew, Sansonara Snoppy. Castaways was 2 ahead of ABG Zone before this week, and then Castaways either lost all 3 of their matches or 2 of their matches, and ABG Zone won all 3 of their matches. And now ABG Zone is like 80% chance to make it, and Castaways is like 20% chance to make it, or something like that. And I'm really happy for ABG Zone, because I think they're a really, really good team, and I'm happy to see ABG Zone win here. By the way, they're running main Descrider, that wasn't generated. So I'm really happy for ABG Zone. They get the win here. We could have played cleaner. I really should have beaten Butchug. Both of these matches were winnable. This one maybe less so. And the last one, maybe not as much with the Experimenter. It still would have been dicey, but I think I still could have easily won against decks that I just don't think are constructed particularly well in a tournament format, where I don't have to play around a lot of things that they just simply don't have. This is our first loss in the tournament. So we were 6-0 in terms of personal best of 3s. And we end up being 6-1 here. And It saddened me a lot, especially since I was thinking the whole time that I misplayed quite a bit in both of these games. I'm really happy for Butchug, like really happy. I'm glad Butchug got their win, and I'm glad ABG Zaun got their win, and I hope ABG Zaun makes playoffs. Get stuffed Ace. As much as I like Gregory and Samson and Juju, Ace can get stuffed with the Castaway stuff. But look, it was a good set, and I'm happy for ABG Zaun. Like, I am happy for them. And hopefully you can learn from my misplays and know how to actually just play around Nocturne like a normal person, and don't just play Condemn at 6 mana against a Stygian, which is 1 mana, and still not, like, really be doing enough, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not particularly proud of how I played, but that's okay. Thanks for watching, I guess. Remember to hit the next video button. Don't like and subscribe. Bye.